Mercedes has used the Easter break in a perfect way, and it seems like the Silver Arrows are now finally ready to come back into contention with Red Bull. Although the W14 has some underlying issues from the previous season and ones that have been acquired at the beginning of the 2023 campaign, the new design of the W14 that's supposed to come in Imola has been revealed. Mercedes will be much more competitive from Italy onwards, and it seems like the battle for the championship will get interesting as we move forward in the season. Join me as we go through the voyage of Mercedes and how the team managed to learn a thing or two from their customer company, one that has shown them how a car should perform by using their parts. The 2023 season started the opposite way of how Mercedes would have wanted it to, with Hamilton and Russell having to face new issues, too strong of a front end. This is the polar opposite of what was happening in 2022, when the car had too strong of a rear end, and the result of that was heavy porpoising and bottoming out. Wolff has announced that while the team has struggled with too strong of a front end on the W14, the fact that the team has built two opposite cars in 2 seasons means one thing: they can narrow it down in the middle of these extremes and build the perfect challenger for Russell and Hamilton. But is this enough? While Ferrari has been more than sure about its philosophy and design, despite signs hunting down the Maranello squad for massive changes in this department, Wolff and Mercedes made it no secret that the design of their car needed to change if they wanted to pursue Red Bull's pace. After all, we've seen Mercedes outperform Aston Martin and Ferrari on a track that suited the W14 more by just making small update tweaks and not bringing any massive upgrades. So this gives us huge hope that the newly invented car design will be one that will bring the W14 where it belongs, to the highest podium place. There is one team that Wolff has emphasised as a great one in terms of where they are right now after where they were in the previous season, and he's been one of just many that have given their kudos to Aston Martin, their customer team. But apart from praising them, Wolff was very frustrated about the fact that a team that buys the majority of the parts from them is performing better than his team. So with little to no margin for any mistake from Mike Elliott and the entire engineering team, Mercedes will seek motivation from the team that buys 50% of the car from them. After all, Aston Martin is a clear indicator that whatever Mercedes has in their car can work if it's used in the proper way. But it's also a clear indicator that changes in certain departments need to be made, such as the design of the car. Wolff has stated that he wouldn't care if the car looks like the RB19 or the SF23, but now the narrative has shifted a bit. It seems like the car will look like the AMR23. This would be the most logical solution for Mercedes, because Aston Martin has shown that with a design that's not part of Mercedes' philosophy, and with the mechanical parts being made by Mercedes, there's definitely room for improvement and challenging the RB19. But what is the number one issue that Mercedes will look to tackle with the new design of the car? The Australian GP has shown that although the W14 has been put in the perfect window of performance for both qualifying and race pace, the porpoising isn't 100% gone, and it still appears casually. On tracks that will have bumpy surfaces, it's evident that it will persist as a phenomenon, which means that the question isn't mainly one of an incorrect aerodynamic concept as it is with Ferrari. The number one issue that Mercedes had to face was the important handicap that came directly from the lack of correlation between the simulation data and the track. Wolff has commented about the side pod solution of the W14-B spec car, as he said that more conventional side pods are coming to the car. However, while he has been hinting that he would mount whatever works best for the other teams, Red Bull isn't a car that Mercedes can model on due to the massive complexity of the other car parts as well, including the floor. Therefore, the perfect model for Mercedes' newly designed car would be the Aston Martin, as it has the majority of the same internal components as Mercedes. When it comes to straight line speed, the new rear wing design of Mercedes that was introduced in Bahrain helped them a lot. The entire F1 world saw the implementation of a new family of rear wings, which made it possible to reduce the drag that the W13 had suffered from a lot in the previous season. So the fact that Aston Martin, a car that looks more like the W13 when it comes to the design of this particular part, is among the cars that suffer with the most drag in 2023, goes on to show that the similarities between these two cars are huge. But apart from that, you can also combine the strong points of the Mercedes and the Aston Martin and build the perfect car, something that Mercedes is likely aiming for from Imola onwards. There are some limiting factors to this, one of which is more evident than the other, and that's the budget cap. The other is the development path, which may be a bumpy ride given the fact that Mercedes takes on a new approach. However, the goal ahead of the Silver Arrows is clear: finish ahead of Ferrari and their customer team Aston Martin, and from what we've seen in Australia, that might not be too much of a far-fetched scenario for the Brackley-based squad. Yet there's something that Aston Martin is showing that just goes on to prove Mercedes definitely need a new approach to their car, and that's the efficiency of the diffuser on the AMR 23. Aston Martin has a less efficient diffuser because Mercedes' gearbox is much bulkier. On the other hand, the team's car can't be a copy of the RB18, the challenger of the Austrian team from last year, because the rear end of the car is purchased entirely from Mercedes. Furthermore, the gearbox and the rear suspension are in fact the same ones that are used on the W14, which means that whatever Aston Martin is doing to be better than Mercedes is coming from the front end of the car. The new design that's supposed to come in Imola will have some massive challenges to overcome, such as the performance on the low and medium speed corners. This is where Alonso and Stroll are able to brake later and accelerate earlier, such as Verstappen, and this is why the performance of the AMR 23 has been much better on tracks that are more rear limited and take a huge toll on the rear tyres. Andrew Chauvelin has spoken about the side pod design and where the team currently stands with the development path. As he said, "The big thing is we've got rid of the bouncing. So we are able to run the car where we want to, and it's much more smoother than we had last year. We are still working on the balance. We haven't got that where we need it. There is more to do." The side pods are a similar theme, but if you change or copy someone else, you'll go backwards before you go forwards. The big focus for us was to add performance and get rid of that bouncing. Apart from this, the team needs to work on the stability of the car, as Hamilton has been more vocal about the narrow cockpit and how it feels when he drives the car, like he's sitting on the front wheels of the car. While Russell hasn't been vocal about the issues that seem to bug Hamilton more, that doesn't mean they're not up for a change. And Wolff himself said that when a 7-time world champion talks about something that needs change, the team needs to listen and implement it, not like the side pod situation from 2022. All in all, it seems like Mercedes has an interesting situation ahead of them, and whether the design that will come in Imola will be enough to challenge Red Bull and Aston Martin, only time will tell. One thing is for sure though, the team won't go down without a fight, and although we've been led to believe that the RB19's design is the one that the team will pursue, it seems like the RB18's motivated AMR 23 will be the way to go for the Silver Arrows. Now it's up to Hamilton to show that it was truly the car's bad design that kept him away from high finishes, and if he fails to deliver, rest assured we'll have a very interesting silly season ahead of us. With this in mind, what do you think about the new upgrades for Mercedes? Do you think that an AMR 23-like design is the way to go? Let us know in the comments below.